I never imagined that after nearly 2 decades together, my entire world would crumble in a single moment. My wife and I have been a couple for 19 years, married for 13 of them. Our journey was filled with memories, milestones, and love, or so I believed. We shared everything: laughter, pain, holidays, and now, a beautiful 10-month-old daughter. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. The past year had been rough, as expected for any new parents. Sleepless nights, diapers, baby cries, it was chaotic, but we tackled it together. Or at least, I thought we did. I worked full-time in a demanding tech job, while my wife stayed at home with our daughter. I respected her for taking on the bulk of childcare, and I tried to help out whenever I could. She had her own escape too, volleyball. She played professionally, and it was her therapy. I encouraged it because I knew it gave her peace. We were very close with another couple. Let's call them Ryan and Olivia. They had been in our lives for nearly a decade, friends we considered family. Our bond grew even stronger after we both had children. Ryan and Olivia's son was about 1.5 years old, and we'd often talk about raising our kids together. That couple was so dear to us that my wife and I had even considered asking them to be our daughter's godparents. My wife and Ryan played volleyball together, often practicing multiple times a week. Since they shared the same level of skill and passion, it didn't bother me. Sometimes she'd pick him up, sometimes he'd come to our house. I never questioned it. They were friends, just like the four of us were. At least, that's what I thought. It was a regular night. We just finished dinner and put our daughter to bed. My wife, exhausted, fell asleep while browsing her phone. As I gently took her phone to put on the charger, something caught my eye. A message notification, hearts, kisses. Curiosity turned to dread as I unlocked her phone and opened a messaging app. What I saw shattered me. It wasn't just flirtation. It was full-blown emotional intimacy. "Good night, love. Can't wait to be in your arms again." My heart pounded. My brain tried to rationalize. Maybe these were old texts. Maybe this was just Ryan's side. But no, my wife responded with the same affection. She told him she loved him, that she missed him, that she was torn between him and me. I put the phone down. I was shaking, nauseous. I went to bed, though sleep never came. For the next few days, I was in a daze. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I looked at my daughter, I broke down. I wondered if she was even mine. The timing of this so-called relationship aligned far too closely with when we were trying to conceive. I ordered a home DNA kit immediately. I needed the truth. Even as I drowned in heartbreak, I couldn't confront her yet. I needed more. I needed to understand how deep this betrayal ran. When she slept, I went back through her phone. I discovered they used a private messaging app. Thankfully, the app had a chat export feature. I downloaded everything. I read through pages and pages of messages. It was clear that whatever they had been going on for about a year. Some messages were missing, probably deleted, but I could trace their emotional journey. They weren't physical, not yet. There were hugs, a forehead kiss, messages about desires he had that she wasn't ready for. But still, the betrayal was just as deep. She chose to share her heart with another man, a man I consider brother. There were stretches of time with no messages, like 3 weeks right after our daughter was born. But they resumed naturally. The deleted messages might have contained even more. In the days and weeks that followed, I became an actor. I played the role of the loving husband. I smiled, helped with our daughter, cracked jokes. I acted like everything was okay. But inside, I was broken. When I wasn't with them, I cried constantly. My stomach was in knots every time I imagined them together. At work, I lost all enthusiasm. My coworkers noticed. One even asked if I was okay, saying I looked depressed. I told them I was fine, but I wasn't. The strangest part? My wife started feeling guilty. She didn't know that I knew, but my exaggerated acts of kindness made her feel unworthy. She messaged Ryan, "I don't deserve his love." Reading that gave me a twisted sense of satisfaction. At least she felt guilt. The DNA results came back. I was our daughter's biological father. Relief washed over me, though it didn't heal the wounds. I needed more evidence. So, I hired a private investigator to follow them on volleyball nights. After 3 sessions, costing nearly $2,000, I had hours of footage. They weren't just playing volleyball. They spent maybe an hour on the court, then wandered off to talk for hours. I saw hand-holding, forehead kisses. No full-on intimacy, but I knew what they were doing wasn't innocent. I saw hand-holding, forehead kisses. No full-on intimacy, but I knew what they were doing wasn't innocent. Sometimes in their messages, one of them would bring up their feelings, and the other would respond, "Let's talk about this in person." Now I knew what those talks looked like. The more I learned, the more broken I became. I couldn't stop replaying everything in my head. I kept wondering, why? How did this happen? Were there signs I missed? And most importantly, what do I do now? 1,000 conflicting emotions wrestled inside me. I wanted to confront her. I wanted to scream at Ryan. I wanted to hug my daughter and cry forever. I wanted to disappear. But instead, I began preparing. I researched family lawyers. California is a no-fault state, which meant her cheating wouldn't affect the divorce terms. That infuriated me. She would walk away with half of everything, my savings, my retirement, our house, and still be rewarded financially. She didn't work. I supported us. And this was the thanks I got. I also started looking for a therapist. I needed to stay strong for my daughter. She didn't deserve this mess. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I still needed time. But I started preparing messages, evidence, timelines, screenshots to share with family and friends when the time came. I wanted the truth known. I wanted the people who thought my wife and Ryan were saints to see what they had done. Inspired by others who had gone through similar betrayals, I decided I would serve divorce papers in public. If everything worked out, I'd do it at the volleyball gym in front of their teammates. If Ryan's wife, Olivia, was also ready, we'd serve them together. For now, though, I waited. I continued gathering chat exports. I continued documenting evidence. I continued playing the devoted husband. But inside, I was building the resolve to leave. The days after hiring, the private investigator crawled by with a tormenting slowness. Every time my wife walked by me or smiled at our daughter, it felt like a dagger twisting in my chest. Yet, I continued to wear my mask. I greeted her with warm eyes. I kissed our daughter's forehead while pretending our life hadn't been turned into a hollow performance. At work, I was quieter, a shell of the man I used to be, and even that small change was beginning to attract attention. The PI delivered what he could, a collection of videos, timestamp photos, and notes. Hours and hours of my wife and AP sitting in his car, talking after volleyball games, walking hand in hand, and a forehead kiss that felt more brutal than any affair captured in full intimacy. It was strange. There was no undeniable physical intimacy caught on camera, but the weight of their emotional betrayal hung heavier than any single night of passion ever could. But what confirmed it all was the digital trail. The chat logs I exported from the messaging app were clear. They shared emotions, future fantasies, memories, even guilt. I saw things I wasn't supposed to see, not because they were hidden, but because they were never meant for my eyes. I read messages where he told her he had been waiting for her since the day we all met. 9 years, a slow, calculated emotional drift that started with a smile and a shared hobby and ended with them saying they loved each other over text while my daughter cooed in her crib. My wife, thinking I was blissfully ignorant, carried on. She didn't notice I was studying her, watching how she glanced at her phone, how she lingered longer in the mirror before volleyball, how she smiled less at me and more to thoughts. I memorized her routines, her energy, and her guilt. There were nights where I'd catch her lost in thought. She'd blink rapidly, hold back tears, and then turn to me and ask how my day was. I played my part, better than ever. Eventually, I began legal consultations. California, being a no-fault state, meant that her infidelity didn't grant me much leverage financially, but the consultations gave me a strategy, a plan. I learned what custody could look like, what the courts considered during separation. My tech job had me well compensated, but I knew my success would soon become her benefit, alimony, child support, asset division. She hadn't worked since our daughter was born. All the sacrifices I made would be split in half. The home I paid for, the stocks I earned, the retirement I built, all of it fair game. Yet, that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was seeing my baby girl grow more attached to both of us each day. She'd crawl to her mother for comfort, and then to me for play. She laughed when we were all together. A picture-perfect family to the outside world. And I knew, when this ended, it would shatter her world before she even understood what a family was supposed to be. Still, I moved forward. Quietly. Systematically. I had drafted the message to her best friend, to her sister, to her parents. I rehearsed how I'd tell the other betrayed spouse. I printed out screenshots, copied files onto a flash drive, backed up everything on a private cloud. I knew the day of truth was approaching, and when it came, I had to be ready. There would be no looking back. The final decision came after one message she sent to AP just days before I was ready to act. She had said, "Sometimes I wonder what life with you would be like. I feel safe when I'm with him, but my heart is with you." Safe. That's what I was to her. A comfort blanket. her emotional anchor while her heart sailed in another man's direction. That night, I put the final touches on my plan. It was a Saturday, a volleyball day. I had arranged with a friend to take my daughter for a few hours while I ran errands. I knew they'd be together at the gym. I coordinated with OBS, who had confirmed she'd read the messages I sent. She was devastated. Her silence during our planning told me more than any words ever could. She, too, had built her life around a man who pretended to be faithful. At 6:37 p.m., I walked into the gym. I wasn't supposed to be there. She looked up, her expression freezing. AP looked confused. OBS came in behind me and stood silently at the door. I handed my wife the envelope. It was thick. Divorce papers, chat logs, screenshots, a printed photo of her kissing AP's forehead. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. She whispered my name. I didn't respond. OBS did the same. She handed her husband his own envelope. The silence was deafening. They didn't cry. Not right away. I turned and walked away. That night, she came home after her daughter was asleep. Her face was pale, eyes red. "Please," she said, "can we talk?" I shook my head. There's nothing left to say. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. "I was stupid. I don't love him. I never stopped loving you. I don't know why I did it." I watched her break down, but I felt nothing. The hurt was too deep. My tears had dried long ago. "It's done," I said. "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." Over the next few weeks, I moved forward with the divorce proceedings. We arranged a custody schedule for our daughter. I kept the house. She moved out. Her family was furious. Her parents, devastated, chose to step back from her entirely. Her friends, when shown the evidence, pulled away in disgust. Only a few remained, and even they did so out of pity, not loyalty. OBS kicked him out. She filed for divorce the same day I did. She kept the house and full custody of their son. For what I hear, AP now lives in a studio apartment. Alone, his weekends are filled with awkward visits with his child who now flinches when he hears his voice. My wife, or I should say, ex-wife, tried to cut off contact with AP after the confrontation. She deleted their chats, blocked his number. But the damage was done. He was a wrecking ball that demolished two families. She couldn't face anyone, not even herself. She tried reconciliation. Letters. Messages. Apologies whispered through tears. "Please, let me come home. We can fix this. I'll do anything. I can't live without you. I can't live without our daughter. Please, please." But I was done. I had given her everything. 2 decades of love, loyalty, laughter. And she threw it away. I found a new apartment. Nothing fancy. Just a place for me and my daughter. We painted her room together, even though she was too little to hold the brush. I framed pictures of us, her in my arms, us at the park, her smiling in her crib. We created new memories. My daughter is my anchor now. Every morning when she wakes me up babbling, every time she takes my hand and points to the sky, I remember that life can still be beautiful. I cook. I read. I laugh again. Not often, but it's getting better. Therapy has helped too. Not just for me, but for my daughter's future. I want to be the kind of father she deserves. Not broken. Not bitter. Strong. Present. Loving. Ex-wife. She lives alone. Her friends distanced themselves. Her family stopped answering her calls. She tried to reconnect with her daughter, but I kept boundaries firm. She's allowed visitation, but only supervised. Her first few visits were filled with tears, begging for hugs. Our daughter, confused, would cling to me when it was time to go. She sent one final letter, a long, rambling piece about regret, loneliness, and how she had destroyed the only real love she'd ever known. She wrote that she hadn't spoken to AP in months, that she wakes up every night thinking about what she lost, that she can't eat, can't sleep, can't function. I didn't reply, because I'm finally healing. I walk through parks with my daughter now. We laugh at ducks. We sing songs in the car. I watch her sleep and realize that I still have something pure, something worth living for. The betrayal will always be a scar, but scars don't bleed. They remind us of what we survived. And I survived. I have a new life, a quieter one, a more honest one. I cook dinners for 2. I plan toddler birthday parties. I still cry sometimes when she asks where her mommy is. But then I wipe my tears and pick her up, because I'm all she has now. And somehow, that's enough.